This is the video for section 8.1b. So in 8.1b, we're going to use our trigonometry as well as Pythagoras to find all the sides and angles in a right triangle. It's called solving a triangle. So normally, like in these examples, they give you, they only are asking for one piece of information, whatever the missing side or the missing angle is. When we're doing solving, they want you to find all three angles and all three sides of the triangle. Okay? So before we can do this, we need to review some piece of information you learned in grade 9. First, the sum of all the angles inside a triangle is always, regardless of what triangle it is, 180 degrees. Okay? So always the angles have to add up to 180. So here in this triangle, for example, we have two of the angles. We have 140 and we have 30, and we're missing one. So if we want to find what this last one is, we take 180. We're going to subtract the two angles that we know. So we know 30 and we know 140. And when we do that, we get 10. So that means that this angle here is 10 degrees. Okay, so angle Z is 10 degrees. This example over here, even though it doesn't have any numbers, we can actually find out what the angles are. So we know that this one means 90 degrees. Okay, and we see that a line with or a side with a little line through it, it means that this side and this side are equal length to each other. Okay, so that means that if there's two sides that are equal length, it means that the two angles opposite those two sides, so here this angle and this side are opposite, and here this angle and this side are opposite. So these two angles must be equal. So if the two sides are equal, the two angles are equal. So we can use our same principle. So we have 180. We know that the angle that we have is 90. So we're left with 90 left. Okay, and now we know we have two sides, so we're going to do 90 divided by 2, and that's going to give 45 degrees. So each of these angles is 45 degrees. Okay, 2 because, why do we divide by 2? Because we have two equal sides and they have to be the same. Okay, so the other thing that you learned in grade 9 is Pythagoras. So with Pythagoras, we have a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So that's our formula. And important to remember is the c, so this one that's by itself, c, must be the hypotenuse, okay? Which means it's the side across from the right angle. You can also only do Pythagoras when you have a right angle triangle. So this triangle, for example, that doesn't have a right angle, we could not use the Pythagorean theorem. It has to be on a right angle triangle. But we could do it on this one. So this is when we have two sides and we don't know any information about this third side. Okay, and we want to know what the length is. So we're going to use our Pythagorean theorem to find that out. So first thing we need to do is identify our hypotenuse. So we're going to circle our right angle and draw a line across, and this one is our hypotenuse. So we know that our hypotenuse is going to be our c squared. So we're going to write our formula, a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, and we're going to put the information that we know. Now, in terms of a and b, it doesn't matter which of these two other sides that are not the hypotenuse you call a and which one you call b. They're interchangeable. You can put either one as a or b. So I'm just going to use the 10 as my a squared, and we don't know, this one is blank, that's what we're trying to find out. So I'm going to leave it blank and just write b squared. And now my hypotenuse has to be the c, so I'll put the 15 there. So then I am going to multiply my numbers here to get rid of the 2. So I'm going to put 10 squared into my calculator, and I get 100 plus b squared. We can't do anything with that. And then I'm going to put 15 squared into the calculator and I get 225. Now I'm solving for this b squared. So the next thing I want to do is I want to move my 100 over to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 100 from both sides. And I get b squared is equal to 125. Then I'm going to take the square root of both sides because the opposite of squared is square root and I want the b by itself. And after I do that, I'm going to do the square root of 125 and I get 11.2. And I use one decimal place here because it says nearest tenth, round to the nearest tenth, and that means I'm going to use one decimal place. If it said to the nearest hundredth, then I would put 2 decimal places. Tenth means 1 decimal place. So this is my b. Now it says we have to name as well. To name the side, I'm going to, here's my side. I have 2 options for naming this side. One, I can follow across here and look at the capital letter that is opposite my side. So here I have a capital J. So this side could be called lowercase j. So I'm going to write lowercase j is equal to 11.2. And that's my final answer. So what that means is this side here, if I take this k and I follow along, it would be lowercase k. And the last side, here's L. This would be lowercase l for this side. That would be naming them. There's a second way of naming sides. Let's say this is my triangle. Oops, I drew the angle differently, but it doesn't matter. J, K, L. So another way to name sides is instead of using the opposite, so putting this as little k, so instead of using opposite, the other way of naming is you take the 2 endpoints and you leave them as capital letters. So this one would be KL, this one would be JL, and this one would be JK, okay? So that's the other way of doing naming. So you can either use the lowercase letters, let's put the rest of them on here. This one's L, and this one is little k. So use the lowercase letters or use the 2 endpoints capital letters. Okay, so next, now we have another one to solve, also using Pythagoras. So here they're saying this line here is the same as this one, so that means that I can fill in my 7 over here. I see here my right angle, so I can draw a cross and add that that's my hypotenuse. So when I have my formula, a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. Doesn't matter which of these I choose as a or b. So I have 7 squared plus 7 squared is equal to c squared. I'm going to multiply, put 7 squared into my calculator. I get 49 plus 49 is equal to c squared. Then I'm going to add those up together. 98 is equal to c squared. Now I want c by itself and get rid of the exponent 2. So I'll do the opposite, which is square root. I'm going to take the square root of 98 and I'm going to round it to 1 decimal place because we're still rounding to the nearest tenth. Whoops. When I do that, I get 9.9 is equal to c. So now for naming again, I'm trying to find my hypotenuse. I have a capital U here, so I could call this U, little u, is equal to 9.9. If I wanted to name it with the endpoints, I could also say TV is equal to 9.9 because the endpoints are capital T and capital V. So either one. Those are just the 2 ways of naming. Okay, you can choose which one you like better. Sometimes it'll specify in the question. So you just need to be aware of both. Okay, so that's some background from grade 9 that we're just remembering. Okay, so now we're going to put that together to solve a triangle. So as long as we have a right triangle with two pieces of information. So first of all, it needs to be a right triangle. Second of all, we need two pieces of information. So one side at an angle, two sides. Then we can calculate all other side lengths and angles. This is called solving the triangle. To solve a right triangle, we use the SOHCAHTOA that we learned last time. We use the Pythagorean theory, and we use the sum of three angles, and a triangle is 180. Our final answer will always have three pieces of information. So we're looking for three different pieces of information. There are many ways to solve each right triangle. Okay, so even if I do it with certain steps, you might use different steps as long as you're getting the same information at the end. That's important. To minimize mistakes, always try and use the original information given in the diagram as much as possible. Okay, so meaning don't calculate one side and then use that side to calculate other things, for example, because you're going to have some rounding errors. Easiest to only use the information printed in the picture that they give you. Okay, so solve this right triangle. So we're starting off, we have 9 inches over here and 51 inches here. So our first step is we are going to label our triangle. Okay. So we know that this is our right angle. So we're going to go across from there, and this is going to be our hypotenuse. Okay. Then we have an angle over here. So this is going to be our opposite. And then we know up here is going to be adjacent. So we have different pieces of information that we want. So let's write them on the side. We need all the angles. So we have angle A, angle B, and angle C. Okay, those are our three different angles that we have. And then we have different sides. And here we'll use the endpoints for our sides. So we have side AB, we have side BC, and we have side AC. So you can label them. So this one up here I'm calling AC. You could also call it CA, okay? Just the convention normally is we put them in alphabetical order, so AC. But if you wrote CA, it would be fine. So the first thing when we get this triangle is we can write down the information that we know already. So we know already that C is 90 degrees because it has this right angle in it. So I can write 90 degrees. And we know that A is 51 degrees. So I can write that up here, 51 degrees. And then we also know that BC down here is 9 inches. So BC is 9 inches. So it looks like the easiest thing to start with is to solve for angle B. So whenever we have two angles that we know, we can solve the third by using our subtraction. So it's always going to be 180 for a triangle. So we can subtract our two angles that we know. We know one is 90 and we know the other is 51. So when we do that, we get 39 degrees. So then I can write up here 39 degrees. Okay. Next thing that I want to find out is I want to find out what this is going to be, AB. Okay, so I'm going to circle what I know. I know this piece of information. Okay, and then I'm going to, this is what I'm looking for, so I'll consider this to be my X right now, so I'll circle this one. Okay, so then I'm going to do AB. Okay, so the two things I have circled are up and hypotenuse. So I'm going to use sine. Sine of my angle is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So I'm going to write that in. Sine, now here's my angle. It's 51 degrees. So sine of 51 is equal to, my opposite is 9, and my hypotenuse is x. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. It's my x. So since my x is on the bottom, I'm going to swap these. Okay, so I'm going to say x is equal to 9 over sine of 51. And I'm just going to do this. This was step 1. This was step 2. And you don't have to do them in this order. And when I do that, I get 11.6 inches. So that means that AB is equal to 11.6 inches. Okay, so I can write that down over here. 11.6 inches. Okay, maybe, no, it's fine. Okay, now step 3. So sorry, this is a little out of order here. I don't know, I did up and then down. So step 3, I want to find now this side up here. So I want to use AC, side AC. So now, this is the only thing that's a little bit different here. So I've finished finding this side, and now I want to find this side. So the place where my X is going to go is going to move. So I need to erase this and put my, maybe I'll put it as a Y. I'll put my Y here instead. Okay, so before we used X, this time we're going to use Y. You could use any letter, it doesn't really matter. But the important thing is the piece of information that I'm looking for has changed. So now I'm looking for this one and this one. Okay, and we don't care about this side anymore. So now opposite and adjacent, that means that I need to use tan. So op and adjacent, so tan. Okay, so, oops. Tan of my angle is equal to opposite over adjacent. I'm going to fill in the information I know. I'm still using 51 degrees. So now here's my opposite. It's 9, and my adjacent is going to be my y. So 9 over y. Oops. Again, my letter is on the bottom, so I'm going to swap. So now this becomes y is equal to 9 over tan of 51. And then I'll put that in my calculator. And I get y is equal to, what do I get here? 7.3 inches. And so that means that side AC is equal to 7.3 inches. So here I can write 7.3 inches. Okay. So these are my different pieces of information that I found. And this is asking me to write this over here too, so I can write 39 degrees, 11.6 inches, and 7.3 inches. So we have everything in this, we have information for all parts of this triangle. We have all 3 angles, we have all 3 sides. These are just the 3 that we solved, okay? So the answer will always be 3 new pieces of information, and you'll always have 3 in the triangle. Okay, so let's try again with another triangle. So now we have a new triangle that they want us to solve. So again, we can write A, angle B, angle C, and we have side AB, AC, and BC. These are the angles. Okay, so let's write down what we know. So we know angle C is 90 degrees. We know side AC is 9. We know side BC is 12. We don't know this side. So the first thing that we can do is we can use, I like to always start, so it doesn't matter which one you start with, but I like to always start with the one that has 2 pieces of information is missing the third. But you can do them in any order. That's just my personal preference. Okay, so we're going to start with side What's the one we're missing for? AB. So whenever we have two sides and we're missing the third, then we're going to use Pythagoras. Okay, so important, here's our right angle. Across from our right angle, that's going to be our hypotenuse. So we're going to have our formula, a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. It doesn't matter which of these we're calling a and b. So this will be our a, this will be our b. 12 squared plus 9 squared is equal to c squared, because that's our unknown, and that's our hypotenuse. So we're going to leave it as our c. So then we can multiply 12 squared, we get 144. We can multiply 9 squared, we get 81. And then we leave our c squared. I'll add up 144 and 81 together, and I get 225 is equal to c squared. And then I'll square root both sides, and I get 15 is equal to c. And what I'm calling c, whoops, looking here, if we're using endpoints, it's AB. AB is equal to 15. So I can fill that in here. I can say this is 15. I can also write it down here. That's 15. All right, so that's the sides. Now I have to find some angles. So now I have angle A. So let's start with angle A. So I'm going to circle angle A, and that's going to be my opposite. So I'm going to go from angle A, I'm going to go across, and this is going to be opposite, and this one's going to be adjacent. So I'm going to circle, I have information, opposite and adjacent. So angle A is up and adjacent, which means tan. So I'll write out my formula. Tan of my angle is equal to opposite over adjacent. Then I can fill in what I know. So I want my angle. So I have to move tan to the other side. Tan to the -1. My opposite is 12, and my adjacent is 9. So my angle is going to be 53.1 degrees. So I can write here for my angle A, 53.1 degrees, 53.1 degrees. Okay? Next thing I need to do is find angle B. For angle B, I'll use my 180 minus my other two angles. So I look up here, I have one angle of 90, I have one angle of 53.1. So minus 90 degrees, minus 53.1 degrees, and I get 36.9 degrees. 36.9 degrees. And that's my final answer. So here, 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 those are my 3 pieces of information. So now you can do this worksheet, 8.1b worksheet. So you're going to solve the triangle. So this is it's called inventory. It's where you write down the list of all your angles and all your sides. So this time now they're using the lowercase letters instead of the endpoints. Okay, so remember, oops, here's B. So across from B, this is little side B. Here's A, oops, across from A is little a, and across from C is little c. Okay, so here they want you to start off by writing down what you already know. So we don't know side angle A, but we do know angle B is 90 degrees. And we don't know angle C. We do know side A is 7.5, and we do know side C is 4.1. So now you have to find side B, side B and these two angles. Okay. When you get a completely blank one like this, then it's your responsibility to write all of this information. So you write your angles, you write your sides. You can either label with the lowercase letters or you can label with the 2 capital endpoints, but you fill out the whole thing in this case, for this one. Okay, so that's how you do these questions. There's another one. Okay, so you're going to do a bunch of those. These ones here, they're telling you information so that you draw the triangle first, and then you do the inventory afterwards. Okay, but it's the same as this. They just don't draw the triangle. You have to draw the triangle first. So you draw your triangle, well, it's going to be right triangle, ABC, and then you'll fill out this information. Okay, so they're telling you, they're telling you the angle A is 90. So that means that this has to be here. Okay, so then you're going to go ABC. And then they're saying BC, so this one, BC, is 11.5. AB is 2.7. Okay, and all they want to know in this question is determine B. Oops. Determine B. Determine the measure of B. They're not asking you to actually solve the whole triangle. Okay? And this one, the same thing. They just want to know the measure of EF. They're not asking you to draw the whole triangle. And then at the bottom of the worksheet are your answers. So you can check your final answers here. Okay? And that's something else then. So you can check your final answers here. And then if you're getting stuck, the full solutions will be posted as well. Okay, so that's the end of this section.